You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday, the 5th of January 2015. West Yorkshire Police, the new Sharia police of Yorkshire. Retreating of the Queen's Guard, end of an era as palace sentries fall back in face of mounting fears of new lone wolf terrorist attack. Is the BBC covering up murder abuse because we love multiculturism? Corfu Ferry catastrophe. Iraqis, Turks and Pakistanis beat women and children to save themselves. Swedish school bans Swedish flag because it may be perceived as racist and offensive to certain ethnic groups. Yet another Islamophobis hate crime against a mosque, this time in Fresno, California. Turns out to be by a Muslim member of that congregation. Thought for the day, yup, it is all over for another year. And finally, Tuferwunday Munday. Welcome back to the World at 8 and a Happy New Year to you all. Nationalists have lost Marlene Guest, who was a sterling fighter in her area as well as one of my compatriots in BNP Wives. R.I.P. Marlene. UK News. West Yorkshire Police, the new Sharia police of Yorkshire. Cafe Crew in an article for Vlad Tepes' blog says it best. In the Yorkshire Standard newspaper is an interesting article. It reports on how the police have arrested and charged a young man for burning a Koran. In itself, it's an article which is a really sad indictment on the state of Great Britain today. If you're not careful in your reading of the article, you may note that it was the paper that reported the incident to the police who took action. The crime that the young man had committed was to openly, on video, tear up a Koran and throw it into a toilet bowl, not the brightest idea, and then setting fire to it. There are a number of issues that his arrest raises, but we'll come to those a bit later on. What is of real interest are the comments posted. Most are in support of the young man, but a couple are very negative and, not surprisingly, come from Muslims. One in particular makes the following statement. I'm just reading this as it is written. Our religion, Islam, teaches to care and respect every human, religions, respect the law, the country where you live. So my humble request to the West Yorkshire Police courts by the law, he should be punished to teach him a Lysian. This Muslim's care and respect for every human and in respect of the law doesn't seem to go much further than demanding a severe punishment for burning a book. That is not a crime. It doesn't matter how significant or insignificant the publication, burning it is not a crime. The burning of the book is merely a protest at what it really teaches, which certainly is not respect for humans, law or anything else non-Muslim. This lovely example of moderate Islam then proceeds to tell us that. I would like to say he is not human, he is worse than an animal, and until he is not get any kind of worse punishment, we are not going to stay quiet. And he finally finishes with, our hearts have been disturbed because we love our religion Islam and our holy book Quran, and we respect all religions, and if no action taken ASAP regarding this matter, then we will take it further. Our not-so-friendly moderate Muslim finishes off by calling the Quran, burning lad, as something worse than an animal, and then implies that if the courts don't punish him in some way suitable and appropriate to Muslims, then they will take further action of their own. Yet the police have ignored the death threats and threats of violence made towards the young man and are focusing entirely on the young man and his actions. Which brings us back to your West Yorkshire Police again. How is it that for the last 20-30 years they've tried to hide the crimes of the Muslims when it comes to pimping and prostituting, raping and abusing young non-Muslim girls? How is it that they have not until the EDL, and later the media highlighted it, acted to bring convictions against these men? How is it that threats of death for burning a mere book are not actively investigated, yet so-called hate crimes on the internet, which amount to no more than name-calling, against Muslims are vigorously investigated and prosecuted? Why is it that the man leading the investigation is himself a Muslim? How can he approach the case objectively and with a degree of neutrality? This article really does show that the West Yorkshire Police and the Yorkshire Standard are very keen to ensure that Sharia is implemented in Yorkshire and the rest of Britain. What a sad indictment and a betrayal of all the people over the last 200 years who have fought for freedom, democracy, liberty and equality in this country. World at 8. Well, that says it all. You can do what you like in a non-Muslim country if you are a Muslim, but you cannot if you're white or Christian. It beggars belief. How have we become so bloody soft and weak? Retreating of the Queen's Guard, end of an era as palace sentries fall back in face of mounting fears of new lone wolf terrorist attack. Security chiefs have taken the dramatic step of withdrawing royal guards from their high-profile posts outside palaces amid fears of lone wolf terrorist attacks. Elite soldiers of the Queen's Guard have pulled back from public positions at many landmarks in response to possible threats from Islamic extremists. For the first time since the height of the IRA's terror campaign, the soldiers are also no longer allowed on sentry duty alone and are now accompanied by armed police. The move to more secure positions behind gates or railings is a direct response to attacks such as the murder of Fusilier Lee Rigby and the killing of a sentry by a lone gunman at the Canadian Parliament 2 months ago. But the measures have been described as a retreat for the guards, known the world over for their bearskin caps. Retired officer Major Ian Deal of the job of the Scots Guards told the Mail on Sunday, "I think this is a big shame. The reason people know we're around is because they can see us, but I suppose the changes are necessary as there is a significant threat." The newspaper has confirmed the changes to the Guards' security at sites including Clarence House, St James's Palace, Windsor Castle and the Horse Guards Parade. Chloe Howard, deputy editor of the popular Royal Central blog, said, "It is a shame as it denies the public the chance of seeing these well-known uniforms that are part of the British identity. Some may think it is a retreat." Buckingham Palace and the Met Police would not comment on security matters, while the Ministry of Defence said we are routinely reviewing security arrangements. Is the BBC covering up murder abuse because we love multiculturalism? I received this too late for our last broadcast before Christmas, but one of my contacts sent it and here it is. OK guys, here is the BBC intro to this story and then the full story follows. Woman detained by police after boy 5 dies in Alva. Tributes have been left near the house by Saturday morning. Police have maintained a high-profile presence in a Clackmannanshire town after the death of a 5-year-old boy. A woman has been detained in connection with the death. Police were called to an address on Carnaucan Place in Alva, 08.50 on Friday, over concerns for the child's welfare. He was found with significant injury to his body and was pronounced dead by the Scottish Ambulance Service at the scene. Fiona Keating of the International Business Times reported, "Scotland, boy's heart removed in horrific ritual killing." Forensic teams searched the area outside the flat where a 5-year-old boy was found dead. A 5-year-old boy was found dead with his heart ripped out in a suspected ritual killing. Police Scotland launched a murder investigation in Alva, Clackmannanshire, after finding the child following calls about his welfare. A woman who is believed to be the boy's mother was held by the police on Friday night. It is understood she is from Botswana, and there is another child, the boy's sister, who is safe and well. An emergency crew member said the boy suffered a sickening and violent death. Police described the victim as having a significant injury to his body, according to the Daily Record. Paramedics declared the boy dead at the scene and the streets around the end of the terrace house in Carnaughton Place were cordoned off. Forensic teams searched the area outside the flat. Chief Inspector Stephen Snedden said, "On arrival, police officers found the child with a significant injury to his body and he was pronounced dead at the scene by the Scottish Ambulance Service. Inquiries into the full circumstances are ongoing and a woman is currently detained in connection with the investigation. We are not currently looking for anyone else and I want to reassure the local community there is no risk to them. Officers will be carrying out inquiries in the area and I would ask the public to continue to give us the full support they have shown so far to allow us to conclude these investigations as soon as possible. This is a quiet area and I would emphasise that this is a very unusual incident which poses no risk to others." World at 8. Well, rest assured, officers, the more Africans we take in every day, the more this will happen. They do not think like us and they are not remotely civilised. So with the threat of Ebola and more of this cruelty, why don't we just shut the stable doors? European news. Corfu Ferry catastrophe. Iraqis, Turks and Pakistanis beat women and children to save themselves. Witnesses report about the Hell ferry Norman Atlantic and tells of chaos, panic and people fighting for their own survival. The ferry caught fire Sunday morning at 6 a.m. local time. At that time the ferry was 61 kilometres from the coast near Corfu. The fire broke out on the deck and has been impossible to extinguish, and it took 32 hours before the last person had been evacuated from the ferry. The Greek soprano Dimitra Theodosiou was on board the ferry. She told the Italian media that she saw men beat women in order to come first to the rescue helicopter. It was hell. I saw some scary scenes. There were men, Iraqis, Turks, Pakistanis on the ship, who was told to sit down to allow rescuers to prioritise the children, elderly and women. But they climbed, beat and pulled the people to come first to the rescue helicopter and into safety. I was also beaten. I was so furious. It was really ugly. I will never forget it. World at 8, the shape of things to come. And what the hell were Turks, Iraqis and Pakistanis doing on the ship? Were they part of a people trafficking scam? Swedish school bans Swedish flag because it may be perceived as racist and offensive to certain ethnic groups. The students at a Swedish elementary school in Skolan got a public message from the school principal saying that all use of the Swedish flag is forbidden. We want to make sure the students do not offend anyone using the flag, Principal Hans Ackerman told Nita Idag. The elementary school Skolan is located in Halmstad in South Sweden. The school has previously attracted media attention when the school management ordered a graffiti painting on one of the school's walls by artist Carolina Fuckelt. The painting visualises naked women's legs wearing fishnet stockings. Now a new infected debate flared up at the end of the school when the school administrator has issued new rules on how to use the Swedish flag. World at 8. I would use the flag, soaked in pig's blood, to bury any terrorists in Sweden after they'd been killed. Now that is a plan. And to follow on, Muslims burning the Swedish flag. A masquerade where a student painted his face in the Swedish flag colours and even used a toy gun has provoked reactions from the school board at Sondrum School. Principals Hand Ackerlund and Maya Ruta has now informed about the new rules for school activities. The rules communicated from the two principals states that the Swedish flag is banned for use with the exception of public flag days in the calendar, such as Swedish National Day, and in the event of international exchange with foreign students. Any other use of the Swedish flag is prohibited. When Nahita Idag spoke to Principal Hans Ackerlund, he explains the idea behind the new rules. He claims that using the flag in a wrong manner could offend students. However, when asked, Principal Ackerman says it had not been any previous problems with the school where anyone felt offended by the Swedish flag, nor did the students have any bad intentions with Swedish flag face painting. The rule is a preventative measure. Critics claim Sweden suffers from political correctness. The original story, dated 23rd December, sparked debate on social forums in Sweden. Critics claim that this is the typical behaviour of anxious employees working with the public sector, where decision-making easily can go wrong. On Twitter, some people claim this story was related to Islam or Muslims, but there is nothing that provides support for that theory. Still, it wasn't clear who the principal thought might be offended by the Swedish flag. When we spoke to him, he meant that students from different backgrounds might get offended, without clarifying it more than that. The written rules state that using the Swedish flag in a wrong manner could constitute the crime hate speech. When asked about this, Principal Ackerlund explained that students with foreign backgrounds could get offended if they see someone wearing a Swedish flag, especially together with a toy gun. World at 8. Students with a foreign background can bloody well go home, Ackerlund, you patsy. World news. Yet another Islamophobia hate crime against a mosque, this time in Fresno, California, turns out to be by a Muslim member of that congregation, forcing a retraction of sorts from the usual leftist apologists for Islam. A vandalism attack on the Islamic Cultural Centre of Fresno on Christmas Day was immediately branded by Fresno Police Chief Jerry Dyer as a hate crime, and the Islamophobia grievance industry began to gear up in response. Now that a suspect has been arrested, the narrative is quickly collapsing. But police announced today that the suspect arrested in the attack is 28-year-old Asif Mohammed Khan, who, according to some news reports, is a Muslim who used to attend the mosque and did the attack in response to bullying by some in that mosque. In response, Dyer has quickly had to walk away walk back his knee-jerk hate crime talk. According to the Associated Press, in the search for a suspect, Fresno Police Chief Jerry Dyer said that the broken windows and bleach poured on an American flag inside the Islamic Center appeared to be a hate crime. On Saturday, Dyer said the investigators interviewed Khan and their theory had changed. "It was not obviously as we thought," said Dyer, adding that the police will let FBI agents decide whether hate crimes charges are warranted. Khan confessed, telling officers he was upset with people at the Islamic Center for talking down or bullying him, Dyer said. Remarkably, a member of Khan's family was allowed to speak at a police news conference to explain his supposed mental illness. World at 8. Deport Khan and his family back whence they came. There are enough US retards around, they don't need to import them, do they? Thought for the day. It is all over bar the shouting for another year, or is it? So I have waded my way through pictures of hysterical and mainly ethnic shoppers who apparently celebrate Christmas on a large scale, seen Tesco take down their minimal Christmas decorations after Boxing Day, seen DFS have their usual weekly sale that ends this month but seems to go on relentlessly, had a car breakdown, had an ill husband and had to cook virtually all bloody Christmas, and now have turkey bits that are really, really old. I bought myself to look at a paper. And what greeted me this wonderful new year? Prince Andrew and some slapper from the States. Now, together with the rapist white footballer who appears not to have got away with anything that his black colleagues appear to get away with on occasion, we seem to have open season on white guys who have beaten the Muslims to underage grooming, which is a polite word for abduction, rape and prostitution. I've spoken many times before on the misinformation or diversive reporting, which makes the public read what the establishment want them to read and which usually covers up or diversifies the thinking public away from more important matters. Now this suits a multitude of people, mainly those concerned with making money, hiding the truth or promoting social engineering, and probably all three. There were 3 pages, including the front page, devoted today in the mail to Andrew, and I admit, although not a fan, I do feel sorry for him. This story has been timed to the nth degree to take people's minds off terrorism, Ebola, Islam and immigration, not necessarily in that order. It is the offshoots of those things that affect the everyday lives of our people, but it is not allowed to prey on their minds. Their minds must be on booze, cheap food, drugs, jobs, lack of, education, lack of, and the terrible plight of our NHS, which is also, along with white guys, having a very bad news week. The TV news follows suit, and the only thing believable is the sodding weather, and even that lets you down. I know I rant over the plan, but surely even the most indoctrinated moron, there is something missing in reporting today. It is blindingly politically correct, biased towards Islam and its followers, who can, it would appear, do no wrong, even if they are caught with a bomb vest on or beating up some child prostitute up north. Ethnic criminals are flying around the country unchecked and unmonitored, whilst if you drink and drive but don't kill anyone, you will get a tremendous fine if you're white. Of course, if not, and you drag a kid to death underneath your uninsured and untaxed car after having shortly arrived in this country, you will get a court solicitor, legal aid and a translator to help you as well, as the plods will dare not even spit in your free coffee. It's reached a stage in this country that is almost submission on an industrial scale. If you even mention a person's ethnicity or query it, you are without doubt a bloody racist and should be ashamed. However, we were all made different for a reason, apart from the Tower of Babel with my old friend King Nimrod, and that is to identify that difference so you don't make a mistake and end up with substandard or odd-looking progeny. Well, that is in the old days, of course. That doesn't apply now. With so much mismatching going on in TV land, it even makes my head spin. But we are all being indoctrinated to not be ourselves at all. It is not the thing to be white or English, or even to make people understand what you're talking about. Thus the plethora of Asian presenters and reporters who actually speak better English than most of the English. The whole plan is to destroy England, and to do this you bring down the monarchy, shut up the House of Lords, destroy the Church of England by bringing in women bishops and God knows what else, open up our education systems to foreigners so they flood it, likewise our land and businesses, and at the same time deflect the obvious from the eyes of the public. Prince Andrew committed no crime, even if he did sleep with this slapper when she was 17. It was on a British island in the Caribbean, and she wasn't underage under British law. I might be wrong, but 17 is not too young for sex, and cannot be compared to the 11-year-olds who have been raped by Muslim men in our own towns over the last 40 years. Her father stated he had brought her up properly. Oh yeah? What was she doing in the company of an old roue away from home in the first place? The whole thing stinks of fish, methinks, and will rank alongside the parliamentary sexual abuse, the bloody footballer and the elderly gropings of 50 years ago. But nothing will be said of the actual figure of criminal immigrants on the loose, or the fact that even if UKIP do get in, they will not stop immigration. UKIP, whilst revelling and picking up BNP votes for being racist, are, in reality, no such thing. Farage doesn't like the EU migrants, but he loves the third worlders, whereas I believe that rules should apply to everyone and that all immigration should be stopped forthwith and forever. Final. Stop bamboozling the public and try to be honest, and without the diversity slant it will not get you a Nobel Prize, dear Mail. If I see poor old Andrew again, I will blow a gasket, and that is the truth. Happy New Year, everyone, and let's hope the rose-coloured lenses fall away quickly. And finally, Tuferwunday Munday. A pastor goes to the dentist for a set of false teeth. The first Sunday he gets his new teeth, he talks for only 8 minutes. The second Sunday he talks for only 10 minutes. The following Sunday he talks for 2 hours and 48 minutes. The congregation had to mob him to get him down from the pulpit, and they asked him what had happened. The pastor explains the first Sunday his gums hurt so bad he couldn't talk for more than 8 minutes. The second Sunday his gums hurt too much to talk for more than 10 minutes. But the third Sunday he put his wife's teeth in by mistake and he couldn't shut up. And the terrorist. Whilst on holiday this morning about 11 a.m, I noticed a terrorist slip from the quayside and fall into the water. He was struggling to stay afloat because of all the explosives he was carrying. If he didn't get help, he'd surely drown. Being a responsible citizen and abiding by the law of the land that requires you to help those in distress, I informed the police, the Coast Guard, the bomb disposal team, the immigration office and even the fire department. It's now 4 p.m. He's drowned and none of the authorities have yet responded. I'm starting to think I wasted 5 first-class stamps. You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.